public first.
Okay.
So calling the meeting to order at 10:30 of the regular Township of Frontenac Islands. We'll begin this meeting by acknowledging that we are meeting on the land that has been under the stewardship of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Huron-Wendat from time immemorial. As settlers, we are grateful for the opportunity to meet, live, and play on this land, and we thank all generations of Indigenous peoples from the past to the present who currently continue to extend the sharing of this land with us. We recognize and deeply appreciate their ongoing connection to this place. We also recognize the contribution of Métis, Inuit, and other Indigenous peoples who now make this region their home and who have both shaped and strengthened this community and our province and country as a whole. As settlers, this recognition of contributions and ongoing importance of Indigenous peoples to the area must also be clearly and overtly connected to our collective commitment to make the promise and the challenge of truth and reconciliation real in our communities, and to bring justice for murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls across our country. As their declaration of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof. Seeing none, hearing none.
Moved by Councillor Halton, second by Councillor Jablonski, that council adjourn to form council in closed session at 10:31 a.m. regarding Municipal Act Section 239C, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, specifically regarding disposition of land. All those in favor?
Carried.
Never.
Now we're going to have everybody off the Zoom in at this point in time.
Just before proceeding with the consent agenda, Madam Mayor, moved by Councillor Halton, second by Councillor Jablonski, that council direct staff to proceed with the recommendations as discussed during the closed session.
All those in favor?
In favor.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Now. We have the minutes. There's the first part of the consent agenda.
Is there any amendments to the January 13th council meeting minutes?
Yes, in the space where we've lost, unfortunately, the entire recording of the minutes of the meeting, correct, for January 11th?
The video recording,
The
correct?
video recording.
Yes.
Okay. And there was a written statement by Councillor Halton. I think that should be added in at this point in time for the completion of these minutes.
So incorporate the Councillor Halton apologized
The
in
written
open
statement.
session.
He had a statement apologizing for his actions and that.
Verbal statement, correct?
You know, it was a written statement he read.
He read from a
Yeah.
written, but he
Yeah.
provided a verbal statement.
Yeah. Yeah, but the verbal's been all lost.
Okay.
Okay,
So excuse me, point of order, are we required to approve a change to the minutes or any individual counselor can ask for changes?
If council is in agreement with the incorporation of adding in that Councillor Halton made a verbal apology to Madam Greenwood Spears under the Integrity Commissioner's report section, then I will add that in. Are you good with that, Deputy Mayor?
I thought there was reference to that.
yes, there is a reference to it,
Okay, so it's in there.
but it doesn't include it. You read a statement.
Okay.
Yeah. But we've lost the meeting and that,
Well,
all the recorded meeting,
so if
which
I
is part of
may,
our policy.
my understanding of the minutes is to record actions, not verbatim what's said.
Correct.
Okay. That being said, if we're gonna start recording verbatim, then I would ask that your response to my question to you, Madam Mayor, around, are you going to apologize, would also be included. So we're not getting into the verbatim stuff. This is just, you apologized, it's recorded, done.
Sure. Because one of the things about integrity commission report is we don't add in additional recommendation.
I'm not sure what that means. I know we don't.
Okay,
So. I have already incorporated the fact that Councillor Halton has verbally apologized in the minutes. Madam Mayor wants a copy of that statement that Councillor Halton added to the minutes. So I'm looking for direction from council to amend the minutes, to incorporate that, or to accept as presented.
I think he should be accepted. I was there, I heard him. The people heard me. Like,
Accept as presented.
Accept it as is.
I'm sorry, Councillor Jablonski.
we said accept as is.
Okay,
Accept it
sorry.
as is. Yeah.
Is there any information items that council wishes to pull and discuss further?
Yes. Any from anybody else? Directly?
I don't know if I can just say. We're gonna get a new office staff, right? And when do they start? Can I ask that question now or no?
No.
Not yet, okay, just.
Well, this is type the consent agenda and that, and the AMO items that we have, as well as letters that have been sent in. And that, so. I'd like to pull the January 16th AMO. The letter from Kimberly Thomas, letter from Bill Coffin, and the Cup W and a post. This is for further highlights. Is there anything else that anybody wants to pull in? Okay. Okay, for the first one, that regarding AMO, there's a mention in there of LOSS, which is an organization that AMO has set up that refers to LOSS being able to do a road and sidewalk assessment service. And since there had been a budgetary decision apparently made that we don't have a roads need assessment done, as had been practiced for the past 2 years. So the last we have is 2022. I think one way or the other, we need to have that sort of reliable data to continue on. And if we don't use the previous engineering report company, which I think would be unfortunate since they have the history of it, then we should probably look at whether or not we can get a reasonable deal from roads and sidewalk assessment with LAS. Is there a discussion on that, Councillor Holt?
Isn't the roads needs assessment done every 4 years?
Public Works. Clarify that.
Needs to be done every 4 years.
Through you, Madam Mayor, if Mike would like to speak to it.
So through you, Madam Mayor, I think what's really needs to be really clear is the roads need assessment is really a tool that is used. It's not a mandatory requirement. There is no specified, you must do it every year, every 3 years, every 5 years, but it is used for, planning, road work, budgeting, that kind of
The
thing.
question was regarding the 2-year interims, because I've seen the report from 2020 and 2022. I was expecting another one in 2024.
So, there was no approval to do one or finance, and we didn't finance to do another one.
In the history piece of road needs assessment, how frequently has it been done?
I've only seen the 2022. I haven't seen anything prior to that. That's before my time. I mean, certainly have not seen a library of assessments, sitting somewhere. That's the 2022 one is the last one that we have referred to and utilized.
Okay. Councillor Markley?
Wouldn't roads need be on population growth though? You'd have to change the infrastructure because you built 10 more houses in this section or something.
No,
Because did MTO not just do most of your sidewalks and roads in the town, I thought. They did when they built the dock, cleaned up the town and stuff.
No, not related at all to road needs assessment. Population studies are done at the county level. Watson usually does that. And that's part of our economic development piece.
And again, we're not county, though. That's a whole different,
I know, that's what I'm answering the population piece that you're talking about. And that road needs assessment is a very detailed study of specifics of which and prioritizes how long the road needs to be looked at, how long it's supposed to last, and what priority we should be doing. And that, so. Councillor Holt?
And I think if you look into it, there was 2018 and 2022, it's mandatory to do every 4 years. Roads needs assessments.
Okay, so it's mandatory every 4 years. Chief Quinn or?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. The CAO will look into that and report back to council. Thank you very much. Now. On another piece, there was a Great Lakes Freshwater Ecosystem Initiative. And it was brought forward even by a member of the public, and I was made aware of it as well. Has a cutoff date of February 13th, so I'm gonna ask if we've made any inquiry into that. It goes up to $3 million it's available per project.
Through Madam Mayor, I can answer that. So thanks to you, I did bring it to our attention. I did look into it. And for this type of funding, the primary purpose, if you read into it, is for water quality and specifically the ecosystem. Speaking kind of frankly, as a municipality, we have not spent time or resources to assess the ecosystem or the health of the ecosystem. So to make an application, we just don't have the data in-house to kind of pursue that. While the funding is there, it just hasn't been a strategic priority of the township. So that kind of limits us. If you look to like some of it, you know, is about, a lot of it is about restoration, and there's been studies done to look for places to restore. There is some, you know, protection, but some of it, again, as relevant to us if it's, you know, reducing, you know, toxic algae or releasing of chemicals. Just as a township, we haven't kind of gathered that information.
And I guess that's part of my point. Is that part of that research can be an application for research money. The funding can be for research money and I think specifically towards the bay at Marysville. And it could even stretch towards the canal area because of the impact that we've already had with the dock. And we don't know. I know the Ministry of Environment has done their piece, but they haven't made it public. However, this funding is available on that, and since virtually all the island of Marysville secures their water from surface water, and that is an area that we maybe even get some research money to actually monitor and assess the quality of the water that we're allowing, even our shore well that's coming online now.
Through Madam Mayor, I guess it's too with the funding, right? If we have, you know, does the township own, you know, property on the coast where we'd be looking at to do a study, right? Like what becomes, you know, what is like the township's responsibility? Obviously it's an island, there's, you know, surrounded by water. But we'd have to look at, you know, specifically, you know, if we were seeking funding, does it kind of relate to, you know, township assets, or is it kind of just, you know, area available in the public? So I agree with your points, you know, I think it's climate change and those impacts, so they are important. Just from a management perspective, you know, we haven't had direction to look into this. It would probably take, you know, speaking of this, to do those studies, to get the research done, to develop a plan. We don't have any staff in-house to do that with the expertise, or, you know, we've had limitations. I just think to kind of pursue these projects just would kind of require either direction, time, money. And that hasn't been set out as a strategic priority.
To the CAO on that water quality in the bay of Marysville. Would it not be in our interest to have a research project done to
Certainly, if
assess it.
it's council's direction to have staff do it, then we can do it, but at this point in time, there's no funding in the budget to allow for it.
No, the point of the funding is that the.
I
freshwater
realize
stuff-
the, how to the funding, but do they give 100% funding?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So if it's council's direction, then staff can apply.
Councillor Hall.
I think, before we even need to look into that, we have a great resource on the island. Mark Matson, been a part of Lake Keepers forever. I mean, eat, drink, fish, swim, I think is what it is now. I know they did do water quality testing in the bay last year, which was great. And I think we have a great resource here that we can get this done without costing us quite a lot of money.
Okay, again, this is federal funding that is not even matching funds required.
through you, Madam Mayor, when I just correction, it said it may fund up to 100% of project
Up
costs.
to,
So
yeah.
there, with that saying, it might not be 100%. We'd have to kind of get into the weeds of it, so. So yeah, they're obviously, I can't speak to exactly. From what I looked in the details, I didn't see what was 100 and what's, not 100. But it might be, they do list eligible expenses, so it might be anything that they, defined as eligible is funded.
Well, as I said, I think there were enough problems that occurred with the water, not just related to low water or high water impact, but also the water quality that MTO has actually reimbursed several of the people in the village for damage done to their stuff. I just thought that, especially since we're actually putting in another well for our own purposes, and that it's in our interest to get best information that on the ongoing surface water of the village. But I see there's resistance to that at this point in time. The time frame unfortunately is February 13th. To put in the ask for a research grant is what I was thinking of. Okay, going to the letters that were sent in, and that one was from Kimberly Thomas. And there were questions asked, and I'd like the CEO if she could respond to those questions. And specifically, I'm looking at the area where the Frontenac 2 is currently still stationed in Stella, where ice covered. And if there's a backup plan, including an icebreaker, basically, if that boat needs to be brought down to service Wolf Island, as it is the only boat that services the island at this point in time is Wolfounder 3. And if you have any more information on Wolfounder 4 or the ramp, that would be great, but I think it's a valid question that.
No, so excuse me, through you, Mayor, at this time, I've not been provided any update with respect to Wolf Islander 4, other than what was sent out last Friday from Ms. Caddy regarding identifying the ramp and Wolf Island 4. And any of my discussions with MTO, they've not indicated anything with regards to Frontenac 2.
You're aware that Frontenac 2 is their backup boat, correct? Correct. Okay. And since it is ice covered from Amherst Island down to Wolf, perhaps you could make an inquiry to the MTO the next time you speak with them. Find out what their plan is, because when we had our December 4th mess, it took them without ice over 8 hours to bring the Wolfounder 3 down from Stella. And it was further delayed because the other boat didn't have permission to move from the dock, but it took till 10:30 before it ever got there. So that was actually closer to the 11-hour mark. With ice, if they haven't got arrangements made with some sort of a tug, these are not ice-breaking ferries, and that. So I think that there's a valid concern in there.
So Madam Mayor, if I could,
Yeah.
I take from your comments, you're asking the CEO to get an update on the I guess, the reliability of the two to be served as the backup?
The contingency plan actually to get the Frontenac two right into service as quick as possible, should it be needed.
So is that what you're asking the CEO to do?
Yeah,
Okay,
I think that's pretty clear.
well, this one,
Okay.
recorded.
Mhm. And in this letter, Kimberly also asked, would it not be wise for council to pass a motion to have staff compile detailed historical documentation regarding all MTO information and our correspondence regarding ferry transportation, which should also include requests for meetings and MTO responses or lack thereof. At a minimum, this accurate and vital information should be shared with our local MPP, as it is the only provincial level that has responsibility in this. And then they asked that posting the information on our municipal website on an ongoing basis for easy reference and facts. Would that be possible?
Certainly, if council directs me to reach out to MTO for correspondence and stuff like that, any correspondence that we do get is posted on our website, so.
Have we got a copy of any reports that would be relevant to this?
Not to my knowledge off the top of my head, but I can certainly look and see if.
The Ministry of Environment report from last summer would be one of the relevant reports.
I've not seen it.
Yeah, and they have it. As well as anything else that they can clarify. I can say that when I sent an email to Franca to ask her for details regarding the ramp, because there has been no movement or anybody seen in regards to fixing this ramp issue. There was no response as to what the problem is, let alone which company is supposed to be working on it. It was also pointed out that if they have their bubble system, it needs to be running now because it's not breaking up ice, it just stops ice from forming. However, it doesn't appear that their bubble system has worked either. So there's lots of concerns, and that if the Wolfhound Core were able to come back and we're still icebound and the ramp not working, this would be unfortunate. Now there's a second letter from William Coffin. In it, he itemized points, and that was first one. He wanted to ensure that we have an updated strategic plan is completed before the end of our current term. And as council's aware, strategic plan was struck from the budget item this year. It makes it challenging to get a unified voice when we haven't got a unified strategic plan that is consulted widely with our residents. So perhaps we can look at that
For 2026.
2026 only, eh? If there was any opportunity for funding that came by, would council be warm to the idea of securing a strategic plan before that?
Well, if we had funding,
If we have
Covered it.
funding for it?
yeah, if somebody gave us funding to cover it. Can't see why not, as long as we don't have extra money right now to spend. But if we did find some funding or something come available, and they're gonna pay for it, why not?
Okay.
Right?
Okay, Councillor Saunders, you're in agreement?
I've totally lost track of the conversation here because I thought we were dealing with this letter and I'm not sure what you're asking now, Madam Mayor.
Point one that he had, can we have a commitment from this council to ensure that an updated strategic plan is completed before the end of their current term? So,
Yes. And I heard the CEO say for 2026.
yes, but this council voted down the strategic plan this time, so we
Yeah.
aren't voting on a budget item at this point in time. I'm asking if we can even find funding before that.
I'm not in favor of that. I think I'm waiting to see the CEO and senior staff business plan for the year before we start making any adjustments to it. So I think we had a healthy discussion at the budget. We said this is important, but not critical. So we chose not to assign money to it. So I'm still in that same position. So.
Okay, Councillor Jablonski?
Yeah,
Any
thanks,
comment?
Madam Mayor. I think, can you guys hear me? Just make sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to make any commitments. I understand there's a need for it right now or coming up for it, but I think we have other things to focus our money and time on. To your other statement, if we get free money, it's a different story, but, yeah, I don't think we can put any more budget money to that at this point.
Hey, Councillor Holton?
Yeah, I mean, if we can get 100% funding from somewhere for that would seem to be the sticker was, between that and staff time, but, I think we can fit it in if we can get 100% funding somewhere.
Okay. Okay, I'll try to do that if we can find any this year. And that, if not, it'll be coming up as a budget item again next year. Another point, Mr. Coffin has, can the mayor and deputy mayor commit to working together to strategically address the residents of Wolf and Howe Islands' interests with MTO and jointly share this vision with council and the public?
What are you looking at me for?
Do you have any comment?
I will reserve any comments because I think it's a little deeper than that. So I appreciate the perspective, but I'm not prepared to comment.
Okay. From my perspective, since there hasn't been wide consultation with the public, a strategic plan really is essential in that to get a shared vision. In dealing with MTO, the CAO has been identified as the person to deal with the local MTO. I will reserve the higher levels in that as part of my role as mayor. The vision that I use is actually the 2011 document, which is the most recent document, which has been supported up to 2019 when COVID hit and apparently everything else fell apart. From the Howe Island side, there's already been a decision made at this council level regarding desire for a new boat, and it's up to MTO to figure out whether it'll be a new boat or refurbished boat because they own the boat. And so aside from that, I can't say that there's a lot of vision that we can share. And the third point was, can council please remember that the leaders lead when you assume public office? You know, there'll be times when you must forego your role as a private citizen and approach your role as an elected official with a commitment to represent the interests of all residents in an impartial and professional manner. I agree. And that we're elected, anybody that saw election in that should be able to take on a leadership role and recognize that our duty is to serve the broader group of residents. We may have our own opinion, hopefully their informed opinion, but it is, to me, having the opinions of most residents is truly the important piece. Anyone else have anything to say about that?
I will comment, Mayor. One of the basic expectations of every member of council is that when we have a discussion and we agree on something, whether we all agree or not, every one of us leaves the room supporting that position. And since you kind of continue to push this, I would comment on the letter you sent out. Quite often comments or makes reference to positions that you did not agree with. I think that's detrimental to your basic expectation or responsibility to speak as one council and support initiatives, tasks, or whatever, regardless if you or not.
Okay,
So-
and there is a mechanism I'll point out for you. If you feel that I've violated that code at any point in time, please make use of it.
And that would be,
The integrity commissioner.
yeah, I'll speak to that later.
Yeah, okay. Any other comments? Okay. All right, and then on the Cup W, which is Canada Post, is under review for section 108 of the Canadian Labor Code. It was brought to my attention that by islanders that were concerned that the Crown Corporation is reviewing and potentially declaring some sites not as viable. So we wanted to make sure that we voiced our support for our local post office, which on Wolf Island side is essential for so many of the small businesses in the area, let alone for the islanders in general. I realize there's no post office on the Howe Island side, and there is less businesses that operate out on this side. However, getting deliveries made to Wolf Island has become increasingly difficult because of the boat situation so this is a very necessary lifeline, so there's a opportunity up to February the 14th for people to email in their support for the post office. They have that information at the post office on the island. And if you contact me directly in that, I can provide you the link. I have sent in my private point that this is an island that would be very detrimentally impacted if we lost that post office. And I'm sure we've had that post office, not necessarily that building, but postal service for over 100 years. And we just need to make sure that they understand the economic impact as well as everything else. Okay,
Okay, moved by Counselor Jablonski, seconded by Counselor Ackley, that the January 13th, 2025 council meeting minutes be adopted as presented, and that the information items be received and filed.
all those in favor?
Favor.
Now, we were at the Public Works report. PW 001-25. And will you be speaking to that, or will?
No,
Chief Quinn. Okay, Mr. Quinn, you have the floor.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I just really want to emphasize, this isn't, and I recognize we have no interest in disrupting ferry service. We certainly want to keep the ferry, the township operated ferry moving as best as possibly can. We are faced with a spring inspection of that vessel by Transport Canada. And we recognized a couple of items that will need some attention in preparation for that inspection. And these items are items that cannot be dealt with during the normal, regular Wednesday closure. And it's just because of the nature of the repairs that need to get done. And so we're just looking for support from council to add an additional Wednesday closure. We would absolutely advertise well in advance so people can plan accordingly. But we need to spend a bit of energy on a couple of items that will move us towards being approved in our inspection.
Okay, any questions, Councillor Ackley,
Nope, sounds great. We need to be proactive.
Councillor Saunders?
Thank you, Mayor. Again, just request that you publish that early so people are well aware and can make plans. Thank you, Chief.
Okay, Councillor Jablonski?
No comments. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Okay, Councillor Halton?
No comments, thank you.
Okay, has it ever been done at night? These sort of preparations?
Some does, it really depends on the availability of the mechanics and when we can get them there.
So they're outside mechanics that have to be brought in?
Yeah.
All right, okay, thank you.
Okay, moved by Counselor Ackley, seconded by Deputy Mayor Saunders, that Public Works Report number PW 001-25, additional maintenance times for a Howe Island Township 3-car ferry report be received. And further, that council support the implementation of an additional maintenance closures to ensure the vessel is fully prepared for the spring 2025 in-water inspection, and that any identified deficiencies are addressed.
All those in favor?
In favor.
Thank you. Now we're at administration report, AD 002-25 draft personnel policy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If council remembers, I presented a draft personnel policy, I'm gonna say roughly about this time last year. Some members of council had questions with regards to it, and unfortunately with everything else that went on last year, didn't have an opportunity to get back to it. So I have had an opportunity to get back to it, addressed the questions from council. It has been sent to our solicitors. It has been fully vetted through them. They have added a couple of additional policies within our personnel policy. And so I'm just presenting it to council for direction if everyone's okay. I will prepare a bylaw and bring back to the next meeting of council for adoption.
Okay, question. Counselor Ackley, would you like the 2
Checking to
minutes?
see if I had
It's quite a lengthy document. Nearly 100 pages, I think. We can come back to you if you like.
Yeah.
Okay, Counselor Saunders,
No questions?
Counselor Jablonski,
No questions, thanks, Madam Mayor.
okay, Counselor Halton,
No questions, thank you.
okay. In the interim, I'll ask a few questions in that. One is at 2.1 of hours of work. Why is there a discrepancy between the office hours on Wolf? Which include Friday for half a day and Howe closed, and also Wolf with more hours. 8 to 5:30 on the Monday. And then the rest 8 to 4, and then only 8 to 4, 4 days a week on Howe. And so in that regard, is there a pay adjustment made for anybody working the reduced hours on Howe?
So through you, Madam Mayor. The Wolf Island office is open till, it used to be open till 1 o'clock. We've backed that up a half an hour, so they open at 8. And kind of coincide Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday with our hours here. And with respect to the Howe Island office, being closed over here, Jesse and I work from home on Fridays, so it's not that we're working a reduced, work week, it's that we're, excuse me, sir, we work from home those days, so.
Okay, I thought the treasurer was working primarily out of the Wolf Island office at this point in time.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I think the intention is once we get the new staff, I'll focus more of my time on that island. Just in the interim, how we've been doing it the last year, just to provide coverage and do certain tasks, but the plan going forward would be to spend more time. I think at this time, I'm still splitting my time 50% between the Monday to Thursday. But as our CEO said, yeah, we do complete work on from home on Fridays as it stands.
Okay. So your hours on Friday would be technically an 8 to 12:30?
Eight to 4.
And in the section of designated holidays and that, did we add any in here? Because it adds up to, you got 13 plus 2 half days, which is 14, and I know that some of them are optional.
Through you, Madam Mayor, the only one that was added, was the, Truth and Reconciliation.
Okay. Because Easter Monday is not a statutory holiday in Ontario.
Always has been a statutory holiday for municipalities. That's nothing new, that was in there from before.
Okay, and Remembrance Day and yeah, anyways. We have more statutory holidays covered in this policy than is required in.
So the only new one that's in there, like I said, is the Truth and Reconciliation. If council doesn't wish to grant that, we can certainly take it in. All the rest of them were ones that have been recognized from before.
Yeah, just to be for clarity in that, the other federal holidays include Remembrance Day, and that's optional in Ontario. Easter Monday is optional, even the civic holiday, and that is listed as optional in some things, but consider it's honored in 5 of the provinces. But just caught my attention, but didn't catch anybody else's attention.
Well, there's quite a few there. There's no doubt there. And adding an extra one, I don't think it's. Yeah, I don't think we should add the Truth and Reconciliation, sorry, to it. There's quite a few holidays there, and I don't know.
If council wishes, we can certainly take that.
I'd like to strike that one.
I support.
I would support that.
Okay, Councillor Jablonski?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the other 2 comments, Madam Mayor.
Yep, and I believe Councillor Ackley's gonna draft a bit of a motion here for this, but. Councillor Jablonski, you said you had comments?
No, I didn't have any comments. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
So would we need a motion for this to change it or just direction?
Just direction is fine. I'm good. I've got it written down that we will strike the truth and reconciliation from the personnel policy.
Okay, and not concerned about Easter Monday either?
Nope.
That's that one.
Easter Bunny's been around.
One thing I'll point out regarding that is we do our land acknowledgement and that, and we're to embrace truth and reconciliation 365 days of the year. Okay. I wanted to check on our sick leave policy and that, is this something new or is this standard that we've been doing before? That at the end of the year, we do a 50% payout of any accrued or unused sick leave?
That's what current practice is.
Current practice, that's right. I want to double check on that. And something that's near and dear gets brought up at the budget time, and that is the voucher amount for t-shirts and sweatshirts and work pants for public works.
Yes.
And I'm just wondering, have we ever looked at just straight supplying the appropriate pants and shirts to the staff? The way we supply their gloves and vests and rain gear.
Through you, Madam Mayor, if you don't mind, I will actually turn that over to Chief Quinn.
Through you, Madam Mayor, some of the challenges with providing just standardized clothing is that we're ending up where some staff are basically stockpiling clothing. If you don't need a new coat, you don't need a new coat. And so really, by simply providing the voucher amount, the individual can purchase clothing that they actually need. So it may be, if they, a pair of shorts, for example, work shorts, that makes more sense, or a pair of coveralls, that makes more sense. But to provide sort of standardized clothing, you end up where people are stockpiling and it's really quite a waste.
So do we have guidance for them of buying tan or buying dark blue or something of that nature?
So my knowledge, there's no defined guideline. It has to be the regulated safety clothing, so with the required reflective,
High
reflective,
visibility.
high vis,
No.
thank you.
I'm looking more at the pants and the t-shirts and sweatshirts.
Again, high visibility. So whether it's beige pants with the reflective band around the pant leg or
So
navy
really
blue.
requirement.
Yes, so the color is not a requirement. It's just that it has to meet the safety standards with regards to the reflection and visibility.
So that Carter's place that sells work clothes is sort of the usual place for this. So
Which I'm sorry, Mom,
there's different places that specialize, so that's the expectation that they're going to
Yes.
attend, not with the Grateful Dead on the t-shirt.
No, so right now, the current supplier that we usually use is Collins Safety.
On the township equipment, that it caught my attention that it talks about in order to effectively conduct business, employees or council members may be issued some equipment. I'm not aware of council members being issued any equipment.
No, but certainly, and Jessica can correct me if I'm wrong on this, there was an amount in council's budget. I think it was incorporated in their honorarium for you to purchase a laptop or iPad or a cell phone or something like that. There was money provided in there for you to utilize. I'm not sure if that got cut for 2025 or.
Through you, Madam Mayor, that piece was taken out. I think when we're looking at this too, this policy is kind of a step in developing that. With council, when it could even be for this one, for the next one, right? When new councils come in, we want to make sure that they have the equipment needed to, do the job properly. So I think this policy is again, just kind of preparing us for the future. If a new council comes in and the councilor doesn't have, say a laptop and that's needed for the job. this policy would kind of just, put the backbone in place where we could then put it in the budget and that purchase could be made. So there was something, but I think the purpose is again to kind of future proof to have a policy in place. Even now, again, if a counselor, their laptop broke and we have this policy, then that's something, I could take a report to council saying, this needs to be purchased. This aligns with our policy, do we have council approval to go make this purchase? So it will still kind of need to be budgeted, but it kind of just provides, the backbone for kind of the logic behind it.
Considering we pulled the funding, I should point out very recently about even subsidizing cell phones for communications that. It seems that this is going counterintuitive to what the council is going in the direction of not supporting any members of council on that with any equipment. That's why it caught my attention that I'm not in disagreement that there should be a cell phone provided to council that is dedicated to council. And that could certainly is in my role, it's the expectation to be in communication, that not just at my house, because that's the nature of the business, but also laptops and anything else. It just struck me in that this policy speaks against what this council has been moving towards, and that is making sure that nobody has anything.
Madam, I think you speaking to it, I understand the point you're trying to make. I think that was a council specific decision for the 2025 budget. I think we discussed when we're presenting budget, this isn't necessarily, how it's council's treated forever. I think it's kind of council's decision to kind of choose that reimbursement, but yeah, just to add the context, but I'll just leave it there.
Okay. Now, in the area of policy HR 20, township and personal vehicle use. Regarding licensing 3.12. And it's specific. Makes mention whose position requires them to have a valid driver's license must notify the township immediately of any issuance affecting their insurability and their ability to lawfully drive, i.e. if they're charged with a driving offense, their license expires or suspended. It doesn't mention consequence. And that whether or not if somebody loses their license and they require a license to be an employee. Should it not be a suspension then with pay or without pay or anything of that nature? And that's a question to the CEO. Because these are the people that report.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Certainly it would depend on the individual and the situation as to the leader of the loss of driver's license.
Very few matters, so I was just reading through it. The clause 3.7 just says if an employee fails to observe this policy, so it is expected, this policy stating they have a valid license, so. Again, it does kind of address it, maybe not as directly as you would want, but just there is that clause.
Councilor.
Councilor Ackley.
And when it comes to your license, sometimes people aren't in control of some situation that somebody thinks that they are when they really aren't. So for us to punish somebody, lessen their wage or terminate them would be bad in our books, I think. Due to the fact that they could be charged with somebody, take their license for 90 days, when really they shouldn't have took their license, because something didn't go right.
Okay, but that's.
Whether they were guilty or not, no, nowadays they take your license right away.
Right.
And
so-
even if you get proven not guilty later, you don't get all your money back, or your job back, or whatever back, so.
Well,
We can't punish people for that.
that's where discretion comes.
Yeah.
Well, if somebody loses
Yeah.
their license, they're not gonna be driving the school bus again.
No, they're not gonna
Well,
drive our
suspended, right?
equipment for 90 days for sure.
Exactly,
That's,
exactly. So that's where
it's
the
hard to punish
nuance
them,
piece
yeah.
needs to be defined if they are in a position
if
that
they're
they lose
valuable.
something like that. Cause it isn't an arbitrary thing. It's done by the police.
Mhm.
Or it's done by the courts.
Mhm.
Or by your doctor.
Or by
Or
your
your
doctor.
correct.
Exactly.
Correct.
And that, so things like that, I think. Need to be clearly defined so that we have a standard that is applicable across the board. Okay, when we get to the policy on HR 25 recruitment. 3.9, and this is for position of CAO. 2 members of council, and if desired, an outside consultant for interviews. I opposed that from the start when we were first new council, and I was excluded from that interview stage and screening, and I'll oppose it again. And even the people that were involved questioned the elimination of any mayor from that selection committee, and that should not be the case. It could be a member of council and the mayor for the CAO position.
So just for clarification, it is 2 members of council. Doesn't specify mayor and deputy mayor, mayor and council. It's just 2 members of council. So
And maybe it
to
should,
me, it would be.
maybe it should specify mayor and deputy mayor as being the 2 members of council on that, because this is a senior executive position as the initial screening. Whether or not there's an outside consultant is up for debate.
No, that should be just the way it reads.
Well, I'll disagree on that, so I'll go around the table. Councillor Ackley,
I would believe that the way it reads.
Councillor Saunders,
It's fine the way it is. It's up to council to decide which 2 members of council are gonna do the interview, right? So.
Councillor Jablonski,
I'd say leave it the way it, leave it the way it is right now. I think, when we look at hiring CEOs, just 2 people who can actually do the job. Doesn't have to be the mayor, doesn't have to be, broken down, but 2 people who actually can interview properly.
Councillor Holton,
Yeah, I think it's fine the way it is.
okay, I disagree, but will the council is to go along with that? Okay. Getting to HR 35, workplace violence and harassment policy. And that's where the definition of the investigator on page 116. The investigator may be the CAO or an individual designated by the CAO or an external individual or firm retained by the township in appropriate circumstances, including as and when required under the Occupational Health and Safety Act. The role of being an investigator in a HR complaint is a very serious and onerous role that can easily lead us into litigation. And that if it's not done appropriately. So my recommendation would be, if it's gotten to the point of the investigator in that it should be a third party that is skilled in that ability. And that to safeguard the employee being investigated, as well as the council and the township in general, and that should it be a flawed investigation, because the skill set of a manager or a CAO or even the council is not the same as a professional investigator, and that when you're getting to that level, if it hasn't been dealt with through conversations and other less stringent approaches, I think that it warrants an investigator that is actually paid a reasonable amount and does the work. But that's my opinion and my experience. Councillor Ackley?
Again, I think that we should be in-house investigating our stuff before it goes out of house, because out of house costs taxpayers a lot of money. They're $700 an hour, 750, Jesse could elaborate, but they're a lot of money, and lately it's cost us a lot of money, because there's some things that could have been resolved and weren't resolved without going to that next level, I feel.
Councillor Saunders?
I'm fine the way it's written.
Okay, Councillor Jablonski?
I'm fine the way it's written as well.
Okay, Councillor Holton?
I'm fine the way it's written.
Okay. Now, workplace violence program, HR 35A. And then 5.2, second paragraph. If the CAO is the alleged perpetrator, the complaint can be submitted to the mayor. The mayor shall consult with the township's legal counsel to determine how the complaint is to be handled. And then to flip it over to 6.3, where the complaint involves a CAO or a member of council, or in other circumstances deemed appropriate by the township, including as and when required under the Occupational Health and Safety Act, an external investigator be retained. So it seems like it's a little bit more specific there. And then it goes further. Workplace harassment program, and again, 4.3, if the CAO is alleged perpetrator, the complaint can be submitted directly to the mayor. The mayor shall consult with the township legal counsel and determine how the complaint is to be handled. And then in 0.6, where the complaint involves the CAO or a member of council or in other circumstances deemed appropriate by the township, including and when required under the Occupational Health and Safety Act, an external investigator will be retained. So consistency throughout this policy, I think, would be, especially when we're dealing with CAO level, that there should be an external investigator. And that even the council to the township is potentially biased one way or the other based on their proximity, the same as council, same as mayor, et cetera, and that. So that's why you take it one step out, so to remove any effort of bias. And that speaks to what we'll be coming to later on, and that is a motion that I believe that the CEO can often be targeted by the public, fairly or unfairly by even staff, and I think that there needs to be a professional level of invested in it, because it's our most senior position. And that's my opinion on that. And my experience. Okay, any comments? Councillor Ackley,
Nope, I have no comment.
Councillor Saunders,
I'm fine the way the policy is written.
Councillor Jablonski.
Just one comment. Thanks, Madam Mayor. I mean, I know we have this concern that we may have to investigate higher ups within our community, the higher echelon of our community here. But we hire the right people in the first place to do the job. So we have to put our trust in those people. I think if we had a problem, it should come to council. We'll discuss it. We think we have to go further on to, as you say, to a third party, then that we make the decision as a council team. And that would be the only thing I have to make a comment about that.
Councillor Holton.
Yeah, I would agree totally with Mike's opinion on that.
Okay, so it sounds like direction of council that stays that the mayor has a chat with the councillor. Okay. Computer, email, and internet use, and I've had some comfort in knowing that there's a new policy that is part and parcel that has been drafted. We need to make sure that, and that's HR 38 on electronic monitoring. We need to make sure that all the staff have that hard copy to them, so that there's no doubt in their mind as to the level of monitoring that can and may well go on here. And that's a new policy. So when I first read through it, before I got to the new policy that's been written by the lawyer, and that I had my concerns, but as long as we're following that, I don't have as many concerns on that. Okay, and disconnection from work policy. Again, that's another one that we need to make sure that a copy of the written policy on disconnecting to work is given to all of our employees so that they have it. I can only speak for myself, and that a lot of times I'm on the off hours and that, or on the weekend, that I see things. And I have it now saying, get back to me on Monday or Tuesday, and that, but I'm sending the email off, and that I don't have the settings in my computer to delay the delivery of it. So it's gone off and that, and I'm happy with people looking at it on the Monday morning. I'm not expecting a response. That being said, it was nice that today, one of my questions I had sent to the planner was part of his process, because he did get it on the course of the weekend. Well, I'm sure the CEO is assuring us that you're going to be making sure everybody has a copy of the electronic.
Everyone will have a copy of the complete policy.
And highlight to them, because we don't want to have them feel ambushed as to the electronic surveillance that can go on. Okay, and that's the end of my comments on it.
Yeah.
Any further questions on the HR policy?
Nope.
Okay.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Saunders, seconded by Councillor Jablonski, that administration report number AD 2 25 regarding the draft personnel policy be received, and further that staff be directed to prepare a bylaw adopting the policy and bring forward for approval at the next meeting of council.
All those in favor?
In favor.
Carried.
Thank you.
Okay, now, action items required. This is to amend the council staff relations policy, and I was working with the previous policy regarding the omission of a fair and independent process in dealing with the complaints of the CEO and clerk. And let's see if there's a seconder for that.
Madam Mayor, you can turn the floor over to
Yes,
the
I'll-
deputy mayor.
Yes, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So item number 6, action items required. Item 6.1, Mayor Green Spears amendment to council staff relationships policy. We'll give the mayor an opportunity to read the proposed motion, and following that, I'll ask for a seconder.
Madam Mayor, do you wish me to read it? or-
Oh, you go ahead, yeah.
Be it resolved that the following be added to the section monitoring contraventions, my apologies, of the council staff relations policy. Item number 3, in the case of the CAO or CAO/clerk or CAO/treasurer is the subject of a complaint by the public employee or a member of council, that an independent human resource firm be contracted to investigate and make recommendations to council, who is the employer. Be it resolved that the following be added to section legislative and administrative authorities of the council staff relations policy. That when there is an allegation or complaint made against the CAO or CAO clerk or CAO treasurer, if in a dual role, in writing, that it is either self-reported or brought to a councillor or mayor's attention, that impartial steps be undertaken by a professional human resources person to conduct an investigation and make recommendations to council of the whole, as they are the employers of the CAO or CAO clerk or CAO treasurer role. This method of communicating such a complaint is in writing and with full whistleblower protection if determined to be made in good faith by a staff member or member of council. If the complaint is from the public, that the council is made aware of the nature of the complaint, but their role is to then hand off the complaint for an independent investigation and await recommendations unless there is imminent harm or legal reasons that might be raised. In which case, legal advice will be sought by council should the circumstances warrant more immediate response, i.e. suspension with pay, immediate termination, etc. Furthermore, it is the intent of this amendment to allow for professional human resources investigation be done free of any bias, and thus provide adequate recommendations and options for outcome or resolution so as to provide the most senior level employee the benefit of a skilled investigation.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So to put this motion on the floor, I'll need a seconder. You're, sorry, Councillor Halton, you're gonna second the motion?
Yes.
Okay. It's on the floor. Madam Mayor, it's your motion if you'd like to speak to it.
Yes, from the start and through many CAOs and probably in any future CAOs, and that the mayor has often been provided the complaints, often just verbal. People just want to let you know on that, and verbal complaints I can usually deal with quite readily in that. However, there's been cases in the past, and that stretching back over years, and that seem to have never been healed or resolved in that, and a true doubt about the transparency of any in-depth investigation being done, and I think that's unfortunate. So this is meant to be a protective measure in that, and part of my background is in human resources, and I do view trying to get things as non-biased as possible with a skilled competency of investigation, should there be a written allegation, and it would only be triggered with a written allegation. No whisper campaigns, no innuendo and and lamenting in that if you're not willing to put your name and everything else behind it, even if it's shielded as anonymous and a whistleblower, but at least it's in writing. And that's so if it's in writing, then I believe that it warrants a professional investigation to be done that is unbiased and come back to us with recommendations of whether or not there's any validity in it, if the person's exonerated in it, whatever. And I think it's a fair mechanism for a senior employee.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll start with you, Councillor Holton. You second the motion?
Yeah, I think, we only have one employee. I think as a council, we're fully capable of handling it. And we do have the option of asking for outside help if we wanted to. So I don't see the need to spend extra taxpayers' money on everything over and over again. I think this is covered. As an aside, I fully disagree with whistleblower protection. If you feel strongly enough, you should be able to put your name to it and everybody should know. So I do not agree with this.
Thank you, Councillor Holton. Councillor Yablonski, if you can hear us, I'm going to go to you next.
Yeah, no, thanks, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, I don't agree with this, to be honest. Again, I go back to my early comment. We have people who have hired, confident, we feel good with these people. We trust these people. Most of the councils do have good reputations with all the staff. They can come to us as well. I mean, I think this is part of all the teamwork. We work together and we can open up these conversations if there's a problem. There are a few vindictive people on this island who would just love to do damage, and they'd have no problem writing something down. I like to protect our staff, keep them in place. If there's a problem, people come to us, we'll talk about it, but I don't want a whistleblower thing in place. That's too much for our staff to deal with. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Ackley.
Yeah, again, I'm just like the other councillors. I'm not in favor of this.
Okay, I have no other comment or I can't add to any of the comments that have been made already. So if there's no other discussion,
Recorded vote, please.
we'll ask for a recorded vote.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Ackley,
Not in favor.
Councillor Holton,
Not in favor.
Councillor Jablonski,
Not in favor.
Deputy Mayor Saunders,
Not in favor.
Madam Greenwood Spears,
In favor.
motion is lost.
Okay, Madam Mayor, I'll turn the meeting back to you.
Okay, and we are at the Howe Island Cenotaph Committee, support for the construction of a cenotaph on Howe Island. Maybe somebody going to speak to that?
Yeah, I will speak to it if council has any questions or anything like that. Certainly, Joe Forsyth is in the audience to answer any questions that council may have. The committee has got together to bring forward a proposal with regards to erecting a memorial cenotaph here between the fire hall and the municipal offices. Appears at this time, it's going to be donations. We're not asking for any kind of funding from the municipality, so if there's any further questions, we can certainly address them.
Okay, Councillor Ackley.
I think it's a great idea. I'm all for it.
Okay, Councillor Saunders.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First, I want to thank Mr. Forsyth for the effort he's put into this. This is one fairly short letter, but there's been an enormous amount of work and research that's gone into this, so I want to thank him for that. The others, I'm not sure about the ongoing situation in terms of once this is in place, who's responsible for the ongoing maintenance, whether that's just grass cutting or whatever there might be. So I don't know if that's been thought of or not.
Through you, Madam Mayor, certainly the grass cutting, if it's going to be located between the fire hall and the municipal office, would all be incorporated as part of our regular maintenance of the grass cutting and that kind of thing.
And if I could, a message to Mr. Forsyth. So Joe, again, thank you for all this. Is your group prepared to take on additional responsibilities? Like, in other words, if there's an addition suggested, or if a certain portion of it gets damaged, are you guys going to take responsibility for that? Or?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
okay. Councillor Jablonski.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. I just want to say, really impressed with this group to put this cenotaph together and And again, just informationally, we have their own donations. I'm really impressed by that. Well done. Very well done.
Counselor Holton?
Yeah, again, I would echo that. I mean, great job done. My only suggestion would be maybe they're working on one on Wolf Island. Maybe they could get a hold of you to exchange ideas. That might be helpful. Thank you.
And along that same line, that's gonna be my question, that to the Cenotaph Committee on Wolf. And that which I understood was the Cenotaph Committee for Frontenac Islands. And so if there's gonna be a separate Cenotaph over here on Howe, maybe they'll be rethinking whether it is Frontenac Islands, because again, it's going in front of the municipal town hall, same as what it is over here and over there. You guys have a little bit more space to work with than they have on the Wolf Island side. But maybe there's potential of the separation that or dedication that, because I know that they had reached out to be inclusive, not only Howe, but Simcoe. And there'd always been that with the Simcoe aspect that they had reached out. So if they can figure out whether or not it's gonna be just a Wolf Island and Simcoe Island Cenotaph, or whether it remains Frontenac Islands. So, okay, maybe we can make sure that the Cenotaph Committee is formally contacted on Wolf. And let them know,
Yeah.
let them know that they're gonna have one over here potentially, and I assume with Joe behind it, that it will go forward.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Saunders, seconded by Councillor Ackley, that the Township of Frontenac Islands Council supports the Howe Island Cenotaph Committee in the construction of a cenotaph at the municipal office located at 50 Baseline Road. And further, that council congratulates the committee on their dedication and efforts in this important endeavor.
All those in favor?
In favor.
Carried. Okay, now we're at the Integrity Commissioner Report Code of Conduct Complaint.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So we've received this from our Integrity Commissioner, Tony Fleming from Cunningham Swan. And it's a bit of a lengthy document. I think it's about 4 or 5 pages or something like that. So council needs to receive the report. So I will put that motion on the floor. Moved by Councillor Jablonski, second by Councillor Ackley, that council received the Integrity Commissioner's report file number 12954-140.
Okay, discussion? Ackley?
Again, this is something I think we should have handled in-house instead of costing taxpayers money, because the end result was.
Yep.
Since that they're didn't find anybody guilty of anything, really, other than some of the people didn't do their accurate due diligence on wordings and how procedures should fall. Like spinning up and point order and that stuff. So at the end of the day, it's a lot of costs for nothing again. It's upsetting.
Hey, Councillor Saunders?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. For the public's knowledge, in case they haven't read it, the recommendation is the complaint has been dismissed, and as such, no recommendations are necessary. I mention that specifically because I'm named in the complaint. There is also a recommendation that council take training on proper meeting processes to avoid a repetition of this type of incident. I think it's important, and I think we see numerous examples of this, is where we don't know the proper way to address certain situations that arise during council members' closed role. So I would strongly recommend that we arrange for training for our council. And in particular, the head of council, since they're the one who has to basically abide by the rules or enforce the rules, so we can avoid this. I'd also I'm gonna add to what Councillor Ackley said. This seems like an awful waste of taxpayers' dollars. I know there's a process there, but surely to goodness, this is two now where I think we could have easily sat down or discussed or resolved amongst council, amongst the two individuals, and avoided this sort of immediate running off to the integrity commissioner and incurring the costs. These, investigations, I don't know what the cost is, but they take, it's gotta be 2 or 3 months before it's actually finally resolved and the report comes forward. So the time it comes forward, basically it's water under the bridge, and everybody's kind of forgotten about it anyway. So I just want to make note that there are no recommendations, against myself. I think we need to take the integrity commissioner on his word and suggest that we do some training on proper meeting protocols.
Councillor Jablonski.
Yes, thanks, Madam Mayor. No, it's just frustrating that we're getting these bills. I don't even want to know how much we spent on these legal fees for these in-house complaints we've been getting. I don't want to know what the total value was we spent money on, but I agree with all of my counsel. This is a waste of money. This should be settled amongst adults in-house, not third party. If we can't even do that, we have a long way to go. Thank you.
Councillor Holton.
No comment.
Okay. Since this integrity report has a recommendation that for council take training on proper meeting process and to avoid repetition of this type of incident, I agree, council needs to have this, that's all of us. And I have been asking for additional training from the start, so I know that it was struck from our budget. I suggested because of the direction of this order, or this recommendation, I should say, by the integrity commissioner, that we find the money in the budget to facilitate the training for all of the council. I won't make any comment because this occurred during a closed session. So it's not up for discussion. But the value of the integrity commissioner is substantive. And yes, there's a cost associated to lots of things that are substantive. Would you complain about the cost of trial and incarceration of a criminal and blame the victim for it? That's not the case. So the mechanism for council, when we have a problem of integrity, is to go to the integrity commissioner. And that is actually going to get reinforced with a new act that is going through the legislature right now that will entrench it even further with more teeth to it. So that's the mechanism. It's not heavy, and it's only brought forward as serious. If it was, we would have had many reports on it from the integrity commissioner. And I'll leave it at that. And I do recommend that we find the money for the additional training for the entire council. And is council agreeing with that as a direction of council? Councillor Adams.
No, I still believe we should handle this in-house, like between us and our CAO. That's what we hired people for.
Councillor Saunders?
I think there are two points. First of all, I think your comment to use the example of a murder or a serious crime as requiring investigation versus a dispute between two members of council, that's like comparing apples and oranges. So I don't think that's a fair comparison. Also, I do support finding the funding to provide the training.
Okay, Councillor Jablonski?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. No, I have no further comment.
Do you support for further training or not? Is the question.
Thanks. Is it the entire council needs training, or is it just certain individual that need training?
Council is the recommendation from the integrity commissioner.
This is similar to the council training we had, correct me wrong, about 15 months ago, last year sometime. The same training session with Tony Fleming.
In the 3 hours that we had,
Through you, Madam Mayor, if I may. Councillor Jablonski, it would be different if the integrity commissioner is speaking directly to training and proper meeting protocol or processes. So not necessarily the training that we had at the beginning of council. It would be more specific training, or at least the thought in my head, we would arrange more specific training with regards to motions, main motions, primary motions, proper, that type of thing. So that And if I may, Madam Mayor, what I can do is, look into the cost of having someone come in and do the training and bring a report back to council, and then, council can decide from there.
Thank, that makes sense to me. I do think some training would be required, so thank you for processing.
Yeah, and I believe in the report it mentions Robert's Rule of the Border
Yes.
as being a focus. Councillor Holton?
Yeah, I would agree. If she brings a report back, we can decide on it then. That'd be great.
Okay.
So for the motion that's on the floor, I'll reread it. Moved by Councillor Jablonski, seconded by Councillor Ackley, that council receive the Integrity Commissioner's final report, file number 12954-140.
And that, is there a friendly amendment on that?
I've taken direction from council that I will
Okay.
prepare a report and bring back with regards to the training. As long as council's fine with that. Okay.
Okay, all those in favor?
In favor?
Now, public question period. Is there anybody on the line? Oh, we have somebody stepping forward. Step forward, please. State your name and your location for the clerk.
All right, great.
My name is William Coffin. Earl's Way on Wolf Island.
I'm sorry, what was the address?
8 Earl's Way.
8, sorry.
I'm the only one on it, so. Type Earl's Way, you'll get me. And I'm now on Google. Thanks for taking a look at my letter. I thought long and hard before I wrote it. I retired to this community years ago to not get upset, okay, to maintain my heart. I'd like just some clarity on the first 2 points. The third point, I'll leave it to this group to please address, because the community is talking. Okay, the first one is with regards to the vision and the strategic planning. Clarity. No commitment from council. We'll talk about it again next year at the budget, or this council is committed to trying to get some sort of vision documented, because you're living in it and you guys have had a hard haul. Okay, I make no bones about it. I've been around long enough that I've known that. Okay. Clarity. Anybody, everybody wanna just make me perfectly clear so I can figure out what I will do next.
What do you want clarity?
I want commitment from the council to actually address the vision, the strategic planning for this community before you guys go up for election again.
Didn't we already answer that? in the first go around? And that's,
You
that
said,
if we can get 100% funding, we'll.
100% funding for
2025, and
2025.
otherwise it'll be a 26 budget item.
so, okay, so it's a 26 budget item, so I will see you at the 26 budget cycle.
Okay,
Okay, thank you very much.
Mm.
Okay, the second one, I just trying, I read I was other issues, but I read the 2 motions in the previous meeting, and I really, when I read them, I thought, oh my God, this is a tremendous opportunity for the council and specifically the mayor and the deputy mayor, okay, because both, okay, and it comes back to the vision for this community, okay, collectively. Both of you had really sound points in your motions, okay? There is a strategic plan, a vision includes both short-term and long-term. And I think we need to have to Deputy Mayor Saunders, the single voice okay, is very key, and I think this is so significant to this community, to the Howe Island, the Wolf Island, the Cinco Island, the Frontenac Islands, okay? That I think we need to have that singular voice. And I don't think necessarily, I don't feel that just having staff do it. This requires ownership of it from the perspective of the council. And so I know that you passed, I read the minutes, okay, I know that you passed Deputy Saunders and you passed on Mayor Greenwood's. I would hope, all I can ask is that the two of you decide to step up and take hold of this thing for the community, okay? Because it, you know, we can stick our heads in the sand, it's becoming a serious issue, okay? And we don't need, we got enough problems, okay? Like I said, I've been around long enough. I know that we've got problems, and I understand some of the comments that you guys make, but I'm sincerely asking that the two of you, you won't commit here, I know that. Okay, but you give serious thought to how to approach it, because any representation to any body outside of this council that needs to address and show that we've addressed the need for the short term. You know, we gotta have transportation. We are island communities, okay? But also the long term, and that should be tied into your strategic vision, and that's why I asked that this be addressed before you guys leave, okay? You're sensitive to it, you're living it. Okay, you are in the best position possible to be able to take the current needs of the community, help drive the vision for the communities, and make sure that we take the right steps. Okay, I'm off my podium. Okay, if you have any questions, I'm here. No questions?
Councillor Ackley?
Who do you think should direct it?
Direct one.
The questions to MTO or whoever?
I think it should be jointly the mayor and the deputy mayor. I think you need that kind of clout. Okay, that unified the two communities. This is not a Wolf Island. This is not a Howe Island. We talk about our services, okay? I think you need, and it shows the cooperation, okay, that we have. I truly believe that this is a situation where the two voices, okay, are better than a single voice, and it needs to be the council.
But again, the two voices need to be on the same page.
Absolutely, and
So-
that's point number 3,
And-
okay? But we're not talking about point number 3 here. I need you guys to try to get this thing together. Okay, because the community needs it. This is not a personality thing.
Oh, no.
This is serious business.
But again, to have all the extra stuff we're asking for, we need to know the ferry's gonna work. We need to know that Howe Island's probably gonna get a new ferry. We're hoping, cause this one's,
I know.
it's pretty rusty.
I had to come across,
Yeah.
pay my $10 to
Every
do a council
second.
meeting, okay?
Every second.
This was a privilege,
Thank
by the
you.
way, I paid for it.
Thank you.
Okay?
But again, like, if it's hard to move forward on an infrastructure for the islands if we don't have sustainable stuff to get us there.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't choose to get electric ferries.
I know.
Somebody else chose
And I'm
that,
not, I know,
and we're trying to make it better,
I
but
know.
we need the right voice. And right now, I feel that our CAO is doing a great job talking back and forth. Should we phone them every 2 weeks? It ain't gonna help, but we should be phoning them definitely, and I think she is communication with the ferries on a regular basis, and we do have Chief Quinn there, and he's also our road super, or
I think
whatever it
I'm
is now.
suggesting you need to take it to a different level, and it, because, you know, the funny thing is that we have differences of opinion.
Sure.
Okay, and if we can get the differences of opinion, okay, to come to a commonality, okay, on how to approach this much larger issue than just one faction than the other, okay? And that's why yeah, it's a key word.
Approach,
Yeah,
how you approach yourself
like I
to
said,
them, not.
this is not a short term.
Exactly.
We have a short term need and we have a long term need.
Mhm.
Want to cut me off? Feel
Yeah,
free.
well, we need
Go
to
ahead.
go around the
Sorry.
table on that. It's, You've raised a valid
Sorry,
point.
I did.
Okay, Counselor Saunders.
Thank you. I can sense the passion in your voice, and taking the time to put your thoughts to paper in a very clear, concise way is much appreciated. So I know you know a lot of this, but I'm gonna just give you a bit of background. When talking about a single voice or a single vision, for Councillor Ackley and I, when we ran for office on how it was fix roads and fix the ferry, right? So work on the roads, the ferry, we had several meetings to talk about what's the solution and what are the options. We concluded that the majority of people on Howe Island wanted a new ferry. We brought that to council, passed the motion, we sent that off to MTO. And now we're in the process of at least evaluating what our options are, which is a huge jump from where we were, because they were nowhere. So that was a common voice. I think the disagreement for Wolf is that there's two thoughts. One is, do we stand by, support, do whatever, close our eyes, roll our eyes, whatever, while MTO tries to sort out the four? Or do we continue to push for the two ferry system? Council passed a motion to give MTO another basically 4 or 5 months. Get your act together, tell us where this four is going, tell us what the capacity is, and then we'd be in a better position to know whether it's feasible or we really need to pursue the two ferry option. The mayor and I can bring those messages forward, but it is the direction of council to do that. So as it stands right now, that's the message that's gone forward. And I have to say that for a member of council to continue to bring up, we need to pursue the two ferry system is detrimental to giving MTO a clear message. One of the things we heard on the Howe Island experience was, you tell us what you need, tunnel, bridge, ferry, whatever, and then once you're clear on what you want, then we can work on it. And I think right now, the muddle we're in with Wolf is we've got a project that is hugely expensive.
Horribly expensive.
I'm trying to use the right word here. There's a lot
I
of,
don't have to.
there's a lot of fingers to be pointed on this project. It's years behind, it's millions, tens of millions over budget. I don't think anybody's happy with it. But if we keep throwing it in the MTO's face and saying, it's a screw up, do something about it. They're people too, and I think that's gonna have, my opinion is that will have a detrimental effect on their ability or their desire to push forward to a solution. So that's how I feel on it. Council has said through a motion that we want to go after, we want to give you more time to sort out this four. And then we're gonna come back and decide whether we need to push for the two or not. That's where I see it, so.
Counselor Saunders, can I have a bit of correction here? I believe that motion was deferred for any decision until September the 9th. If you're referring to your.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
there was no agreement on council. It was deferred for any decision till September the 9th.
Okay, so
So
in the
it did
interim,
not carry.
in the interim,
In the interim, that's part of the dispute in that.
that's right. So whether it was,
I agree with what you have said. I don't think you can wait till September the 9th.
That's why it was deferred.
So I just actually understand when I say vision, short
Yeah.
and long term, okay? I think that's exactly what you just talked about is short and long term,
right,
okay? And I think that's where you two need to work together and let's get with the blessing of council and get this out there.
Okay, so Counselor Jablonski, any questions?
Not so much questions, maybe a statement, Madam Mayor. And again, this was deferred to September. It was my suggestion, only because we have not got the four back yet. To start chasing a second ferry again, based on some papers out 11, 12, 13 years ago, we're just wasting time. But let's get the four back. If we find the MTO wants to look at putting another boat on the island, great. But we got to get the four in place first, put it through its paces, and then actually make a common, at least an intelligent answer at that point. We say, yes, we need more. Our population is going up. We need another ferry now. As it stands right now, we haven't had another ferry run on this island. I've been here 15 years. We've only had one ferry. And now we have a brand new ferry. It's off to a bad start. I don't see how we can start making demands for two ferries until we have to have the one working properly first.
Okay. One more comment, yeah.
So we are not in disagreement. So far, I've got two in agreement, okay, short term and long term. And this speaks to your vision, okay? We need to bring the vision of this community up to the current standards so that that is your ammunition going to MTO. So that's why I asked for the commitment to get this strategic plan and this vision for this community documented and on the paper, okay? So we actually said the same thing as you, Counselor.
Okay, Counselor Holton?
I thank you for taking the time to send it in, Bill. You have a lot of points. I'm not necessarily in agreement that we need to have a formal, like, we need to figure out our short and long-term vision. I don't think that we need to really redo our strategic plan for it necessarily. So I hope moving forward, we can be all on the same page and have a plan.
And be able to articulate it and share it with the community, please.
All right, and thank you for supplying the letter and that. I'm still of the opinion that we need to survey the Wolf Island residents, not the Howe Island residents. You've already done that. We've already made a decision at council. But the Wolf Island residents that through paper surveys that I've done to try to get their opinion through the hands up at the town hall meeting, it was quite decisive in that. And if this council needs to find direction, it should come from the residents because it is tearing the residents apart. And it is not for us to pick out the budget for the MTO. The MTO is responsible for their own budget time and the solutions that they work towards. So to me, this is the missing piece. I've asked if we could have a poll done of the islands. I asked if it could be included in our mail out for the tax bill, something nice and straightforward sent to the Wolf Island residents, because it is essential. And we need to have that clarity. There's a lot of opinion here on council, but quite frankly, it's only 5 people's opinion. So I want the opinion of the majority of the islanders, and that then we can all move forward together. And certainly, there's already a petition at the legislature. The islanders are starting to bypass council, and I don't blame them at all. And that this council has not done its due diligence and governance in soliciting the full opinion of the islanders that are deeply affected, both from an economic perspective, a health perspective, a social perspective, and a time perspective. And we are losing our younger families because of even simple things as getting kids back and forth to ice times. So we need to have that poll done, and I have asked that it be done and put onto the tax bills that are being sent out in March. It's up to council to figure out if that will be put on. If not, I don't see a great swaying of the impasse, because I'm working from reports that were impartially done that indicated we need to have dual ferries. It's not pie in the sky. It was their plan to 2019, and COVID shouldn't kill it. So,
Sorry, Madam Mayor, Sonia Cliff's on the line here, would like to ask a question.
okay. And Mr. Coffin, are you done now? We've taken more than enough time, okay?
I'm done if you're done.
Yes. Okay. Sonia Cliff.
Hi,
need to
I guess, sorry. Am I okay to go ahead?
You're good.
I just have a couple questions. Chief Quinn, when the Little Ferry is being serviced for the spring, do we know how long that will be and a date? The in-dock water inspection or in-water inspection?
So through you, Madam Mayor, we're not 100% sure on the date yet. What we're looking at would be like a 4-hour closure. Similar to what happens now with the regular maintenance. Stick with Wednesdays because people tend to be used to Wednesday, and we would announce it well in advance.
So it's not gonna be like a few days or anything, like it's been, like
No,
they've
it's
done that
not
in the
4
past?
hours service, but we would have to probably repeat it again, second week.
Yeah, I think what she asked, so is the date of the inspection. Would that be an all-day affair for the Have a water inspection or in water?
So through you, Madam Mayor, the in-water inspection, Sonia will get a date from Transport Canada well in advance, and then it'll be advertised. They usually are about 2 to 3 hours for their inspection.
Okay, that doesn't really matter then. I was worried that it was gonna be like a couple weeks or something.
No, and so again, through you, Madam Mayor, just don't confuse it with the out of water where it has to be towed away. It's actually gonna be done right at the dock, and it's about a 2 to 3 hour inspection.
Another question for you, Chief Quinn. When Madam Mayor was talking about their roads being inspected every 2 years, is that something Howe Island does as well? And you also said it wasn't necessary, correct?
So through you, Madam Mayor, the roads need assessment that people are referring to, will pin down exactly what is required in terms of redoing that assessment. Right now, the assessment that we use is the one that's done from 2022. And in that assessment, there's a lot of things that are identified. But we need to ensure that we look at it through the lenses of it's a guideline, it's a tool that's used. An example of that would be they make reference to the Fuller Road, for example, and Fuller Road is a seasonal road, but the recommendation is we spend, upwards of a couple of $1 million on the Fuller Road. The reality is Howe Island Drive, which is a primary road, would make more sense that if dollars are available, that we spend it on Howe Island Drive. So that's where you look at the assessment. It is a guideline. It's used as a tool to make decisions for budget. And that's kind of what we rely on at this point. Council's made a decision in terms of road work coming up in 2025, and it's included in the budget. And yeah, that's it. 4 kilometers of Howe Island Drive, the balance of Baseline and the balance of Spithead Road are due to be done, repaired, resurface treated this summer coming.
So sorry,
Back to your-
how often is that assessment included in the budget? Like how often, or for Howe Island, do we have that included in our budget every 2 years or 4 years, or is it just as we see fit?
Through you, Madam Mayor. Sonia, so when a roads need study is done, it is conducted for Frontenac Islands.
It covers
So-
Simcoe as well.
Yeah, so both Wolf, Howe, and Simcoe are all covered in the roads need study.
But sorry, it sounded like Madam Mayor was asking for one for coming up soon, and we wouldn't really need one if we know what roads are going to be repaired for Howe Island, correct?
It would be inclusive of all the islands that we had roads on. And so that's Simcoe, Wolf, and Howe. And it's a report that shows our progress, what we did from before, what still priority is, etc. And it is a very valuable tool because our roads are our biggest asset as well as liability. So having the third-party engineering data is very, very helpful to a small community, especially where we don't have in-house engineers, a lot of opinions.
And if I could just add one last piece, Sonia, that might help answer the question. This assessment doesn't dictate what roads are done. The assessment is a guideline. Members of council, through our ongoing assessments, all of us drive these roads. Public Works team look at the roads. We bring back to council what we suggest is the areas that need the most attention. Third-party contractors come and travel the roads and say, hey, you can get away with this section for another year or so, but that section needs to get done or you're gonna be in trouble. So there's a whole bunch of gathering of information, and then we bring it to council, and this, you know, we lay out kind of what we need in terms of dollars to make it happen, and council decides.
Is that assessment available to the public?
Yes.
The roads needs assessment is linked to the website.
I believe so, Sonia, but I will double check for you.
Okay, yeah, it should be available to the public, because the public is paying for the money of it, so if that's part of, past our 3 minutes, are you all done there, Sonia? You got your
One
answers?
last question. Just for the money that has been spent on any investigations regarding your in-house, I guess I will say it, like, issues, is that information available to the public? Since it's taxpayers' money?
The
The
cost.
legal costs. of
How much?
The legal, yeah, the legal costs.
Sorry, Sonia, certainly if, we don't normally make our, invoices public. They don't come to council for approval, depending on the level, or the dollar amount, the department heads approve it, anything over a certain criteria, then I have to sign off on it. If you are looking for the amount spent on the integrity commissioner, you can, certainly request that, through MFIPA.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other hands up that I'm not seeing? Okay, we're at statement by members. Councillor Act.
Again, I had a couple of people call just about, the township office and coming to get stickers, and some people were suggesting different times for our employees to separate, so there's always somebody around here. Sometimes that's impossible, but I was just looking for some direction. I think we're gonna have some new staff maybe soon, so to answer some of the people's questions. We'll probably have a member that will be here, dedicated to be here all the time.
Through you, Madam Mayor. So, the intent is for the deputy clerk to be here on How with Me. And yes, so interviews are being conducted, this week. We're hoping, pending everything goes well, start date of probably the first or second week of March.
Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Saunders.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do have a statement. I would like to take this opportunity to recognize Howe Island resident Stephen Sorensen, who has donated $500,000 to the Kingston Health Sciences Center toward the purchase of a portable MRI machine. In a prepared statement, Dr. David Pecora, President and CEO of Kingston Health Sciences Center, said, "Thanks to Stephen, our hospital will have cutting-edge medical technology that brings advanced diagnostics directly to patients in need. This incredible gift will improve access to timely care, enhance patient comfort, reinforce Kingston Health Sciences Center's commitment to innovation, ensuring people in southeastern Ontario receive the best possible medical treatment." We all know how important our medical system is, and congratulations and thank you to Mr. Sorensen for putting his, as you might say, his money where his mouth is, and putting up a significant donation towards Kingston Health Sciences Center. That's it.
Councillor Jablonski.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. Yes, actually, just some updated news from our meeting with the MOH last month. We had a good delegation went down, myself, Vanessa Latimer, actually Bill Saunders, and Chief Hawkins went down as part of our delegation. Madam Mayor was present as well. We presented as well. Yeah, it's sort of how I thought it would go, but on the happier side, better side, we're getting a lot more communication now with the Frontenac County and actually MTO supporting anything we can do to help get our ambulance back in service again. So we do have people helping us. Well, we have some ears open up right now that are willing to help and maybe work on some ideas. So nothing is dead yet. We're still working on getting emergency service back on this island. Thank you.
Councillor Houghton.
Just thank you to our road staff. They've done a great job this winter so far. And a little bit of a shout out to the people in the village that have done a very good job of for the most part, making sure their cars are off the street when we need to plow. That's been great to see. Our rink's been up and running well. Just a reminder, to please check the community center site to see if there's any bookings. So, thank you.
Okay. And there's a couple things. One was the work that we're having done at the foot of the community center street, that for the new shore well. And that there was a little sent to all the members of council, including the clerk. And it didn't make it into the correspondence and didn't make it on the agenda, and the request was regarding, at this point in time, arranging for a 2-inch nozzle attachment, so that there are many islanders that have the water totes. And they currently are dropping it into off of docks and over at the winter dock when it's not being used. And it's a bit hit and miss, and since we're putting this in, that it could be a dry hydrant setup. And it seemed like a reasonable enough request, and I know that person wanted to have it on the agenda, and apparently it didn't get on the agenda. So I think there's something that we need to look at, because it's not just that one person that I see people drive by all the time. There must be probably a dozen people that are using totes and that for filling up their waters from various sites. And if we can help it out with minimum cost, just putting it in, it seems like a reasonable piece to me. Another thing that I've heard feedback from is our fee schedule, and it's coming up in our bylaw and sadly I hope it's not true in that, but I heard that it is threatening the viability of everything from the gallery to the craft shop. So perhaps the CAO can reach out to them and the treasurer to make sure that doesn't happen. The fee schedule itself, that doesn't have a meeting room rate for the Howe Island site that has not-for-profit organization. It's not applicable, but on the Wolf Island side where there's only the community hall, there they get charged a rate. I think that isn't fair, and so I think that should get looked at. And I also noticed in the community services and that there's a horse corral area at the back of our community center that doesn't seem to have any fee associated with it either. So maybe we need to revisit that fee piece and make sure that we aren't shooting ourselves in the foot.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I know we're probably gonna discuss the bylaw in a second, but just on the art gallery and the craft shop. I believe in the bylaw, it states, there could be special rates where an agreement would be had. Those rates, again, are for people renting for a day. That are not for the purpose of someone using those locations for over multiple months. I have been in contact with the craft shop. The art gallery haven't reached out to me, but they know rent's forthcoming. As far as communication from staff of the township, we are just pursuing to work with them again, giving them similar hours. The exact rent is going to be proposed to them shortly. If you recall, a number was proposed last year. And then ultimately, just due to the timing, we offered the spaces for free. Again, kind of leave it to staff to kind of put forward those arrangements, but they should kind of expect, something similar. And kind of in the spirit of what council advised, charging a reasonable rent. But the rates you see there where, we're not going to be, if they want to use it for, 45 days, we're not going to be charging that daily rate.
Right.
As a fee, just to put it out there and hopefully kind of ease the concerns of those groups.
And so up at the community center where the horses have their arena.
Madam Mayor, I can't speak to that one because I have not heard about
Councillor
it.
Halton.
I can speak to that one. If you want to charge them, I'm sure they'd be more than happy to give it to you, but they do all the maintenance. All the structure is built by them, it's all maintained by them. So that's why there was never any fee for it. It's maintained by the Horse Association.
Yeah, I think there needs to be a leveling of the playing field for the discussion. And also, as I said, for the
So it's
meeting room
for
over
the-
here.
For the discussion, so you'd be more than happy then, I'll talk to the community center group and they can talk to them then. I'm quite sure the Horse Association would hand it back and just pay a fee because it'd be cheaper for them.
Mhm.
I think we should leave it the way it is. They're happy with it.
I think that it's not your role as the counselor, and I think it's the role of the administration between the treasurer and the CEO.
Yeah,
To do
well, I
the
don't think it's
reaching
your role either as council to
Pardon me,
suggest it.
counselor, you're out of order. Okay. The other piece was the meeting room rate for the not-profit organization over here, and that this room is free for a not-for-profit organization, but not-for-profit on the Wolfhound side, because it's only a town hall that we have, would be charged a rate. I think there needs to be a revisiting of that. Okay. Now, I think that's enough for the statements. Notice of motion. Any notice of motion? Councillor Ackley, Councillor Saunders, Councillor Jablonski, Councillor Holton.
No.
Neither. Announcements, Councillor Ackley,
I don't have any.
hey, Councillor Saunders,
Thank you.
Councillor Jablonski,
No announcements today.
okay, Councillor Holton.
No.
Okay, there's euchre at 7 o'clock still on Mondays on the Wolfhound side, and the Better Ferry Service has a meeting at 6:30 on Tuesday. They are not associated with us, but it's apparently setting itself up as a board of directors soon. And then their meetings may not be open to the public at this point in time. This might be your last chance to have it open to the public. Okay, and now we're into the bylaws. Bylaw 039/2024, general fees and rates for various services. That's the one that I was speaking to. So is there?
So
Yeah.
I'll put the motion on the table.
Yeah.
This is for all three, because I'm looking for all three readings and final passage. If you would like to separate,
Yeah.
then I'll have to do a separate motion, but.
Yeah.
So the motion on the table for bylaws 039-22 or 2024 would be three readings and final passage be granted to bylaw 039-2024. Being a bylaw to establish general fees and charges for various services provided by the municipality.
Thanks.
I would need a meeting next week for that.
Mover and seconder for that. Councillor Ackley, Councillor Saunders, it's on the table. Comments, Councillor Ackley?
Oh, I don't have any comments. I'm pretty happy.
Okay, Councillor
Good.
Saunders? Councillor Jablonski?
No comments.
Councillor Holton?
No comment.
Okay. I have concern, because it's been raised to me by people, that there's a discrepancy in treatment in some of the areas, and I want to make sure that it's fair and that we don't end up with a loss of tourism accessibility here on the township properties. And that, so fair and reasonable, and if we haven't had that communication, I think it's more than warranted to allay the fears. I've literally heard from people that usually do crafts, that they put their craft stuff away because they don't believe they're going to be able to be part of this. So there's a lot of community doubt going on out there. And I've gotten phone calls even from the US on it, so people that are involved in this need to have the assurance that we are being more than reasonable on any of these rates.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. I mean, I can only speak, you know, if you're saying a lot of doubts, I haven't really heard that. I had one contact, but again, we are busy, so that's, I'll admit, you know, that's probably they're feeling any delay. I had tried to keep in contact. But as we were directed by council, we will charge a reasonable rate for rent. That will be given to the groups, and they can let us know if they'd like to continue. But the intention is to offer those spaces to both those groups on similar hours and operations they had the year before.
Okay, and the discrepancies between the free room here versus the rate being charged to not-for-profit on the Wolfhound side?
Through you, Madam Mayor, this might have been missed by myself in the review. I don't know if our CEO wants to speak to it, but if we're looking to amend it to make it similar, I don't see an issue with that.
No.
Okay. And then.
And for clarification,
Mhm.
we're talking about this room, and there's no charge to use this room. Is that,
Through you, madam, yeah, I believe that's specifically.
So who
use of the
uses
meeting.
this? And I don't, it never gets used.
Yes, it is.
By who?
Highway uses it for one.
Well, yeah, once a month. For half an hour, okay, yeah.
And that's it.
Okay,
Yeah.
but potentially any of the not-for-profit groups and that, let's get it straight one way or the other, so that it's equal across the board. And investigation of the use of the land for the horses. And that, to make sure it's fair and equitable across.
Yeah, through you, madam, I'll have to look into that one. I think if we would look to fees, if it's specifically association, just like with the art gallery and the craft shop, we'd be looking for an agreement with them. Not necessarily something to be covered by the purview of the bylaw. But more in the sense, if the bylaw is written, to have that agreement, for that specific use. If it's not really generally something that's used by the public. Just to speak to that, just because again, with speaking to the art gallery and the craft shop. We are having kind of a separate agreement, as stated bylaw, where we're not gonna be charging them what the daily rate is.
Right, but we have no rate at all for the use of the land back at the community center and that. We have it for baseball diamonds, we have it for pump outs. But we don't have it for that particular use, so let's just get it clear.
Yeah.
There's enough fuzzy areas.
As Councillor Holton said, doesn't the horse people pay for everything?
Yeah, they maintain it. and
So isn't that a fee in its own?
There's a recreation group too. We talked
And nobody,
to Jesse.
Yeah.
And that's why we'll leave it to the treasurer and the CEO to get that sorted out and make a report back.
Exactly.
Okay.
So the motion's on the table for 3 readings and final passage.
With direction to staff to come back on these other pieces, right?
Well, that's an amendment, right?
Yeah. I mean,
If I can, and I think what's being suggested is if you want to change that, you put an amendment on the table, changing the rates. Or changing the bylaw from first and second and third, just to first and second.
if I may clarify, we've already done first and second.
Okay.
So this is what I'm looking for third and final right
Okay.
now.
Yeah.
If council wishes to defer this to the next meeting,
Yes, please.
we can do that and get clarification with regards to these.
Okay, so who would like to motion to defer, or do we have to have a motion for that?
Yes, please.
Okay. I'll hand the chair over to the deputy mayor then, and I will make the motion to defer to the next meeting.
Okay.
And to the reports back to council, so we don't lose our stuff.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to defer to third reading, that's correct.
Third reading, correct.
We'll need a seconder for that motion.
yeah, I'll second it.
Councillor Ackley? All those in favor?
In favor.
Passed.
Okay.
Okay, the chair comes back.
So, the Counselor, moved by Counselor Ackley, seconded by Counselor Halton, that 3 readings and final passage be granted to bylaw 004-2025 and 005-2025.
Okay. Any further discussion? Ackley, Counselor Saunders, Counselor Jablonski,
Nope.
Counselor Halton,
No.
fine. All those in favor?
In favor.
And the final one, moved by Counselor Ackley, seconded by Counselor Halton, that the regular meeting of council held on February 10th, 2025 adjourned.
At 12:51. All those in favor?
In favor.
It's going.
Did you help
Yeah,
again?
we're gonna postpone it till 1:30. Rob just texted me and did. But yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Forte.
Oh,